SDG 14, Life Below Water, is a huge research priority for FIU because, put simply, we just can't have a healthy planet without healthy oceans. And we know that more than just about anyone here in South Florida, where we have so much at risk from sea level rise and the degradation to oceans. So for decades, we've been investing in finding ways to help make our oceans healthier and to ensure that we have sustainable oceans that support the human communities around them. And we do that here in our backyard in South Florida, but also work around the world with many partners to make sure that we have healthy oceans everywhere. We've got more than 200 scientists at FIU working on SDG 14. And so that means there are probably too many projects to go through one by one. But a lot of our projects involve big collaboration. So here locally, we are working to restore Biscayne Bay, Florida Bay, and the coastal waters of the Florida Keys. We're doing things like making sure that we can pinpoint where pollution's happening so we can respond in real time to prevent fish kills. We're working on long-term issues like ensuring that our benthic habitats like seagrass are healthy to support the fisheries that are so important. And we're also making sure that the coral reefs that really protect our coastlines and drive the tourism economy are not just staying healthy, but getting healthier. Then around the world, we've got one example is our big project, Global Finprint, where more than 100 collaborators around the world are surveying shark and ray populations to figure out where they're doing well, where they're in trouble, and how we can bring them back. And then going the next step to work in country and internationally to make sure we're putting the protections in place so we have healthy shark populations and healthy reefs. And then we're also working even with law enforcement to make sure that we can disrupt the illegal wildlife trade. So we're working in all aspects to make sure we have amazing, awesome oceans here locally in the US and also around the world. You really can't make an impact at scale without having deep partnerships. And that's from working with local communities to international organizations like the UN. And that international leadership is so important to make sure that we're working with the right partners, whether it's NGOs, governments, local communities, and scientists around the world. So, in our work in the Pacific and the Caribbean, working with these small island states is critical because they are so threatened by sea level rise and overfishing. So it's critical we're working with those local communities and governments, but we also need to be working and providing data so that international treaties and local national management plans are getting it right. And while we focus a lot on biodiversity, fisheries, the health of oceans, we're also concerned about the health of local human communities that rely on the oceans, because if we don't make things right for the communities that rely on the oceans, we're not going to have long-term sustainable change. And what we want to make sure is that the impacts we're having are going to last lifetimes, because you can study a question to death, but if you don't go that next step to make sure that we're changing things for the better, it's really all for nothing. Working in local communities is really critical for making an impact and sustaining that impact. And a lot of times that means that we have to be sure we're working with the communities that are being the most impacted, because sometimes as you shift things for conservation, like in my field of shark biology, if you just switch to tourism, if it's not the fishermen that are having to give up fishing rights that get economic benefits, you're not going to fix things long term. And so we need to make sure we're working with the right local communities and engaging them in the process, not just telling them what to do. So we've been able to do things like turn fishermen into rangers and helping do the science for us in some places. And that's led to national level impacts. But we're also working in education. And so our Aquarius reef base at the Medina Aquarius program, where we have an underwater research habitat, we've been able to talk live from the bottom of the ocean to more than 1 million kids around the world to talk about ocean conservation and educate them and inspire the next generation of ocean enthusiasts, scientists, and just people that want to protect the ocean. So we're really working at all levels, from education, local communities, and even to government. So locally here in our backyard, Biscayne Bay is a really threatened waterway, but it's at the heart of Miami. And so we have to work with the local government to make sure that we're getting the science into the right place so we can put the frameworks in place to ensure that we're making the water quality better year by year. And if we do that, it's going to help the economy and it's going to help our communities broadly. Working on life below water, SDG 14, has really been at the heart of what FIU's been doing really since our inception about 50 years ago. And it's going to be a part of what we do throughout the history of this institution. And so we continue to invest in our faculty and staff working on these issues and our students. So now we've got more than 200 scientists working on improving life below water. And we're going to bring in more faculty, more students. We're going to train the next generation, and we're going to continue to build these big international collaborations that help us make a difference globally. And that collaboration involves more work with big NGOs, with the UN, local and national governments. Basically, it's all hands on deck to do the research that's critical to making an impact, but then going beyond the research to engage with all the stakeholders and to turn that research into action that ensures that we've got a sustainable and inspiring future for everybody.